afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. We're going to present our topic, Walk and Talk, Research into Reimagining Productivity for Neurodiversity. But firstly, we will introduce ourselves. I'm Valentina Landin. I am a designer and researcher from Ecuador, based in London, currently pursuing a master's in global collaborative design practice. My work focuses on inclusive, slow, and nature-based approaches to design with a strong interest in neurodiversity. I've been diagnosed with dyslexia since I was a kid and recently with ADHD. My motivation to do more research comes from an isolated process of trying to fit into rigid structures, and I want to share this thinking with all the neurodivergent people out there to tell them that they're not alone.
My name is Jasmine, and I'm a design researcher currently undertaking the same master's as Valentina in London. My academic work focuses on participatory design, systems thinking, and ethnographic methods. I've led grassroots projects across disciplines, designing public engagements, workshops, and community-led interventions that invite dialogue, vulnerability, and meaningful collective action. While academia, science, and design rarely intersect, we believe that bringing these conversations up into the world is essential for building a more caring, empathetic, and communicative approach to rethinking spaces through the lens of neuro-inclusivity. Let's talk about the way we understand productivity. Especially in workplaces, it can be dated all the way back to the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. At that time, factories sought measurable ways to quantify their employees' outputs as indicators of value. Over time, this turned into the idea that being visibly busy equals more valuable or more productive. However, today's capitalist structures on constantly producing has led us away from understanding our deeper self-defined bodily and natural rhythms. If we think about it, why is this modern idea of productivity so often tied to destruction? Destruction of ecosystems, of natural cycles, and even how we view ourselves. These outdated models of productivity, prioritizing growth, affect everyone, but not as much as those who are neurodiverse. We all understand neurodiversity to be the natural diversity of how our minds work. It means neurodiverse people think, learn, and respond to the world in different ways, and that's completely valid. Our research points to theories suggesting that neurodivergent people thrive with autonomy and personalized support. That sounds promising, right? But in reality, many workplace models fall short. They stay abstract, focusing on optimizing productivity over people. They often miss what neurodivergent individuals actually need: understanding, flexibility, and the lived experiences of neurodivergent individuals. The impact is real. According to the Neurodiversity Index report of 2025, 51% of neurodivergent employees had to take time off their work because of their neurodivergence. So why should we care? Because creating truly inclusive spaces means rethinking the systems. It's about shifting from top-down fixes to bottom-up understanding.
We decided to work with neurodiverse community because through personal experiences as a neurodivergent, I've been affected by the structure of the system, and Jasmine has witnessed people very close to her who can't follow a fast-paced rhythm. We noticed that these struggles are isolated and there's no space or audience to communicate them. Collaborating with neurodiverse people was very meaningful and valuable because we were not only listening to what they have to say, but also as designers facilitate a space where we gather valuable information. We choose to advocate for neurodiversity, especially those who are on the spectrum or have ADHD and dyslexia. Being neurodiverse is not a problem, it's a gift, and we believe that neurodiversity is the pioneer of change. Our research aligns with nature-based practices, and what do we mean by that? As much as nature is important for everyone, it is a good facilitator when it comes to neurodiversity because of the sensory elements of the environment. Sensory seeking is a behavior where you pursue stimulation through the senses, but we understand that it could cause distress for some people who can feel overwhelmed. However, in Calendar's research about naturally connected neurodiversity, a sense of perspective, she highlights that nature is a sensory refuge. These spaces offer a break from societal expectations and sensory overload, providing a calming and grounding experience. Sensory seeking is necessary for those who are on the spectrum and with ADHD and with dyslexia. Nature plays an important role for neurodiverse people. It supports autonomy and exploration, which can particularly beneficial for neurodivergent individuals seeking environments that accommodate their unique sensory and cognitive needs. And that led us to our research question. How might we reimagine productivity for neurodiverse needs by developing an alternative framework that prioritizes nature-based practices? We use principles of co-design in our research process. According to anthropologist Arturo Escobar in his book Designs for the Pluriverse, he mentions that co-design process is at play in which communities, activists, and some outside participants, including expert designers, engage in a collaborative exercise with planner, designer, decision maker, and guarantor coinciding to a great extent with the communities and the movement. This gave us insights into designing a process that works as a collaborative and learning tool for both parties, researching and participant. By diving deeper into the struggle of our neurodiverse community, implementing co-design in research means practicing a form of knowledge exchange. This research aims to support, not to promote neurodiverse productivity by centering individual needs and embracing a slower and more intentional practices. Our research adopts an immersive, open-ended ethnographic approach with methods like walking, talking, photography, and observation, meaning we aren't just observing from a distance, we were actively engaging with our participants in context and over time. Walking as a research practice enables the researcher to uncover new layers of understanding of social environments or oneself. Walking is proven to be a good approach for neurodiverse individuals. Studies show that walking enhances our physical, mental, and cognitive functions, as well as allow for dopamine to be released, a hormone lacking for those with ADHD. In The Praise of Walking by Shen Omara, he emphasizes that walking stimulates the brain, leading to improved memory, creativity, and learning. Reflective dialogue, a term used by Raya, is a collaborative process of mutual questioning between us and the participants, breaking down the research and participant barrier. We introduce this new format of interviewing, where reflection is done through conversation. Photography within ethnographic research can be the basis of a collaboration in which the natural elements are an integral part of observation of how people engage with them. It enables our neurodiverse participants to communicate emotions beyond verbal expression and create a space where they have an autonomy and engage with the environment. In her book, Material Methods, Woodward suggests a key aspect of observation is not only the act of looking and describing, but also the act of perceiving and assigning meaning or value to something significant. So now let's talk about how we conduct our walk and talks. So we invite 12 neurodiverse participants on an intimate walk where we will consciously choose parks in London close to their location. These walks were from 30 to 60 minutes long. During this time, we facilitate open-ended questions and prompts to question their understanding of productivity, whether personal productivity or workplace cultures. A key point of our research is to be attentive and curious about their surroundings. Towards the end of the interview, we invite them to find a tree that resonates with them and to photograph it with a disposable camera. These disposable cameras serve as a prop, prompting them to be more observant with just one option to photograph the tree. You might be wondering, what does this activity have to do with neurodiversity? We found the analogy of trees encourage neurodiverse individuals to think beyond oneself and to view nature cycles as a form of resistance, which aligns with Clayton Upton's construct of how we make sense of who we are through our relationship with nature. Now, Jasmine will now talk you through our findings.
So, speaking about the types of neurodivergence amongst our 12 participants, we realized that 5 of them were diagnosed with ADHD, 3 with ADHD and dyslexia. 1 of the 12 were diagnosed with autism and 3 identified as others. When asked about diagnosis, among all the 12 participants we had the walk and talks with, 58% of them were diagnosed, some early, some late. 33% were self-diagnosed. This was mainly due to lack of infrastructure or support. And lastly, 8% were in pursuit of diagnosis. Before we share our findings, we'd like to walk you through the process of analyzing data. Even though qualitative research is intended to be open and sensitive to complexity, it's easy to fall into the trap of reducing data, extracting meaning, but losing context, emotion, and relational depth. Here, we turn to Nora Bateson's concept of warm data. Warm data encourages us to see the bigger picture. It is not meant to replace or in any way diminish other data, but rather it is meant to keep information alive. This type of practice reminds us that understanding productivity, especially for neurodiverse individuals, means holding space for feelings, environments, histories, and relationships. From our ethnographic fieldwork, we found a recurring theme of the pressures of societal expectations. Participants talked about how their sense of productivity was shaped by the need to mask or present themselves in ways that felt acceptable. This led to strong emotional responses, feelings of inadequacy. They spoke about the need to validate their day through tangible achievements. So, if they didn't finish everything they had planned, or if things didn't go as expected, it often led to feelings of guilt or self doubt. Some described the pressure to constantly do more, just to feel like they were meeting even the most basic expectations. Others talked about how even when they completed tasks, it rarely felt like enough, especially when they compared themselves to those around them. One of the quotes from our participants from the walk and talk, she says, "I'm always comparing myself. You see a person spend 1 hour and they can accomplish so much. What am I doing for 8 hours? Where's the proof that I spent 8 hours doing that exact same thing?" Another insight is a theme we've been calling meaningful actions. These were everyday things participants did, like drawing, stretching, or even calling a friend, that helped them feel grounded and mentally clear, adding to their everyday productivity. However, these activities weren't seen as valid forms of productivity. So, while these practices are essential for neurodiverse well being and life balance, they often go unrecognized because they don't fit into traditional ideas of what productive looks like. This really pushed us to reflect on how narrow our collective definitions of productivity have become and how much that invisibilized what actually supports mental health. One of the quotes from our participants was, "Nowadays, I realized people don't have hobbies anymore. For them, it's a waste of time. I like to approach drawing, surfing, skating, walking, even talking with strangers as a way of nurturing myself." Lastly, a key insight revealed how our neurodiverse participants experienced emotional entanglements with the trees during the photography and observation activity. They began forming emotional connections and ascribing identity through a kind of environmental mirroring. Framing these narratives within environmental anthropology, we saw nature serving as a cultural marker, a way of creating meaning and belonging. So, this can be drawn from the biophilia hypothesis by Edward O. Wilson, which suggests we're biologically wired to seek connection with nature. Therefore, these testimonials and interactions aren't just symbolic, they are restorative. Without societal expectations in play, participants experience these moments as spaces of refuge and recovery, where they could reconnect with themselves, free from external pressure. One of the quotes from our participants again was, "Nature has definitely helped in my productivity." I think the funny bit that we should be asking ourselves is, how do you think sitting in a cubicle plays a role in your productivity? That is the stranger question, because nature should be obvious. We are connected to the elements around us. We're not connected to a concrete block. In conclusion, we found that this exercise, these walk and talks, were proving to be a comfortable space for our neurodiverse participants, allowing them to be vulnerable. And by the end of the session, they left feeling supported, heard, and valued. This alternative framework, designed and developed with neuro-inclusivity in mind, is the combination of neurodiverse narratives and understanding of neurodiverse productivity culture and how interactions with natural environments support the challenges faced by them. By practicing productivity on their own terms and reimagining themselves through nature, it has led our participants to accept themselves and for who they are and embrace their unique ways of experiencing the world. Through this process of connection, they have discovered that their neurodiversity is not a limitation to overcome, but a valuable perspective that enriches both their own lives and the communities they belong to. Thank you so much for listening. So if there's any questions or thoughts.
I think it's a very interesting topic to talk about. I was wondering, what do you want to do with this information with your studies?
So, a big part of our process has been to continue these walk and talks that we've been having in these sessions. We hope that we can come up with a sort of framework or a sort of document, a way to share this with other people so they can begin practicing it in their own ways, whether that's amongst friends, organizations, or even just as a practice that you can start doing on your own. Maybe Valentina wants to add something that I may not have conveyed. Yeah,
It's
you
okay.
good?
Um, well, you were also you're in a school, an art school. How is the connection between this research and art?
So we are from a design school, and we found that incredibly interesting to see the world of academia, science, and research and design come into play. A big part of how we've approached our masters is to understand societal and environmental and cultural injustices and how designers can play a role in that process because we're so often excluded from these conversations, but we feel we can come into the conversation with more empathy, with more care, more of a facilitation role, and take on responsibilities that might not be able to, yeah, might not happen otherwise. With this project, it's a good question, Steven.
Thank you.
I think I can add something to that. I think with this project specifically, having conversations about neurodiversity, I think it was a very personal choice. Like I think, like I mentioned in the presentation, like personally, I've been very always like trying to fit into rigid structures. Jasmine has seen people around her. So we decided to basically we want to advocate for neurodiversity. It's a transition. So this is like kind of like the first step of how we would like to approach these conversations around like what does mean productivity in the realm that we are right now, in the present moment, in our masters that we're doing. So it comes from very personal choices that we would like to give a space to have more topics around neurodiversity research in the design industry.
Yeah, and inclusive design thinking and yeah. I hope that answers some questions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was wondering about your participants because you mentioned you had 12 participants. What was the age range of these participants, and did that
So
play a role in your approach?
it did play a role in our approach. Our age groups were from 20 to 35-year-olds, which we extended to 40-year-olds as well. So, like, probably I would say, I don't know how to categorize these, but like young working professionals. And a big part of that process is because we live in a capitalist world. A lot of people with neurodiversity and general mental health are experiencing burnout, anxiety, and all of these other things which tend we have felt through research and own primary research that it is limited to these age groups. Between in terms of gender, we had about 10 participants who were women and two participants who were men. Um, during our data analysis, three participants as men, my bad,
Three.
sorry, 9 women, 3 men. And during data analysis, we could definitely see the um, the gender plays a role in how they express and advocate for their neurodiversity. All three of the men seem to be very accepting, have positive reflections and relationships with their own neurodiversity. And most of the women would experience a lot of self-doubt and a lot of emotions in relation to their accepting their neurodivergence, which was like, it was interesting to see that. Again, I don't know if I answered your question properly,
No,
but
you definitely did. Thank you. And if you're looking for new participants, are you looking for the same age range, or are you also looking at cultural differences in your
yes.
research?
I
Go ahead.
think I think definitely we're open to any type of diversity. We have our participants are from like different backgrounds, coming from like India, Latin, from the States. So we are very open to have more participants, even like age gap. We would like to talk with someone who is like 30 onwards, like yeah, it's something that we would love to have. So yeah, definitely.
And is there a way we, as the people who are here, could help you find these people?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, that would that would be amazing, to be honest. Yeah, it would be amazing if we can collaborate in to have more participants in like London side. I think it would be great. It will be very new for us because that means it will be something new to explore and that like we have to design new stuff, which is more exciting for us.
And I think, yeah, research into what it means to like switch or like extend the age group to a
Hmm.
little more. But I can leave our email addresses and LinkedIn profiles into the chat if one would like to connect. And yeah, have more
Yeah,
conversations around nature, neurodiversity, and productivity.
we can have conversations by walking,
Yes,
just
walking.
by walking.
Well, I understood there's also a UK chapter active in London for neurodiversity. Perhaps you could connect with them
Yes.
and find people who may wish to cooperate.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, that's a great opportunity. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, is
One,
there any question who
Yeah, I think
from
Daniel has one.
yeah? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
no real question that will
Oh,
follow, but I want to connect. I definitely want to connect.
Yeah.
oh, perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
'Cause
Thank
here,
you.
like here in Berlin, we have so much of the neuro-inclusive design thinking people and networks, and yeah, my synergetic radar is
Yeah.
vibrating.
Yeah.
Sweet, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Um, when you're doing your new research, if you want to do that, are you specifically looking for London?
We are currently located in London, and so we are would love to learn how to embrace this digital realm and the technology involved to connect all of us. So that's something we can look into, but not specific to London. I think one of our walk and talks we even had it through digitally trying to, embrace that difference in location. So yes, would definitely look into that.
Yeah, you mentioned digitally. Have you had like interviews over phone while someone
Yeah,
walking?
it was a video call, and we went on a walk and we talked, and we had the phone and it was online. So that was also really interesting to see how the technology can play a role in this, because as being on the spectrum or neurodiverse in general, you have to accommodate for a lot of sensory
Yeah.
overloads. And so keeping in mind how to be more inclusive with everyone, if someone can't actually come out in person, how do we accommodate for that? And so that's a big part of our practice as well, to think about inclusivity. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Very
bye.
exciting.
I have a
Thank you so
question.
much.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
someone has
some.
a question. Sorry,
Hi,
Tahani.
Yeah, hi Jasmine. Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, I have a question related to the ethical consideration. How you dealing with this as a type,
So,
because you have a different type of the research. So yeah.
yes. So a huge part of the research is before every session that we have a set of consent forms where we ask them to sign if we can use photos that they've taken, record conversations, if they're okay with their names being displayed or not, if they would like to share information or keep it aside. In terms of thinking about the data part of it, when we gather such sensitive data, it's uploaded onto a physical hard drive, so there's no data footprint or anything digitally. And then the information is deleted from that after the session if they're uncomfortable with it. We've also given them, we've asked them to sign on to these consent forms for 1 year. So we have this information around for 1 year, after which we then can delete it. There's no footprint of it. But yes, most of the participants we talked to were very, very
Yeah.
happy and comfortable and excited to share their thoughts, their opinions, their impressions, everything. And well, yeah.
I think it was a time for them to speak for themselves. So that's why they were very happy to share. Also, as you can see in the presentation, when it comes to like visuals or picture, it's normally on the back. Everything that we have recorded so far is no face whatsoever, even though they have signed the consent form, we try just to avoid faces.
Yeah, so basically, do you have a plan to make this publishing like in scientific papers? So then it could be. So if we came to in this regard, so I think the ethical consideration would be totally different,
Yeah.
or you just to keep it like a practical method to use and yeah to spread the awareness talking about this topic.
I think we would approach it from that. If we were to academically publish this, which is also an important part of the conversation, thank you, we would have to look into the ethical considerations once again. When we had to submit the ethical considerations originally, we had to submit why we're working, because working with neurodiverse people means that it's a vulnerable group. And so all of those considerations had to go, and we had to submit a document. And that requires you to go through an ethical board that is part of our university as well, or externally. And so they evaluate your work and ask you to think about different considerations. Since this project was not originally, or this research was not originally intended to be publicized, the considerations were low in low in the risk, low risk. Yes, that's what it was considered. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.